Hey everyone, my name is Steve, your storyteller on Eyes Disclose Secrets. Dive into the dark side of humanity with me as we explore gripping crime documentaries. If you're hungry for suspense and eager to uncover hidden truths, subscribe and like to become part of our crime-solving journey. So today's video is going to be another true crime story. Today we're gonna be talking about the solved case of Hannah Christine Hill. In May 1999, the peaceful streets of Akron, Ohio, were shattered by the disappearance of 18-year-old Hannah Christine Hill. As her family and friends desperately searched for answers, a chilling tale of betrayal and manipulation emerged. Join us as we uncover the haunting mystery of Hannah's fate and the quest for long-overdue justice. Hannah Christine Hill, born in May 30th of 1981 in Akron, Ohio, United States, was an 18-year-old with a promising future ahead. Growing up as an only child in a loving household, she had just graduated from high school and was eager to embark on her journey of independence. During the summer break, she secured a part-time job as a secretary for an ATM company and purchased her own car, marking significant milestones in her life. Despite her excitement for the future, Hannah remained grounded and cherished the time spent with her friends and family. She was known for her warmth and sociable nature, and her popularity was evident when she was crowned the Winter Queen at one of her school dances. In her free time, she enjoyed cozy movie nights, engaging conversations, and fun-filled outings with her friends. Among her circle was her boyfriend, Brad O'Born, who she had lived with briefly before deciding to move back in with her parents. Despite the challenges they faced, their relationship endured, reflecting their commitment to each other. On a Wednesday evening in May 19, 1999, Hannah arrived home from work as usual, changed into pajamas, a telltale sign she was winding down for the day. Around 9 p.m., she phoned her friend Jennifer to discuss plans for the night, mentioning she was staying in. After a few more calls, she changed back into her regular clothes and informed her mother, Kimberly, she was going out. Leaving the house at 10 p.m., Hannah seemed troubled, but assured her mother she'd be back later. The next morning, her parents realized she hadn't returned. Initially assuming she stayed with a friend, concern grew when her boss reported her absence from work. Hannah wasn't one to skip out on responsibilities. On May 20th, Hannah's mother, Kimberly, filed a missing persons report with the Akron police. The report included a description of the car Hannah had been driving, a Geo Prism, which she had taken but never returned with. For reasons still unclear today, the police took no immediate action on Hannah's case. When questioned about their inaction, they simply stated that Hannah was 18, and 18-year-olds often go missing and then turn up later. This was why they did not make an effort to look for her. However, Hannah's friends and family knew she wasn't the type to disappear for 24 hours without informing anyone. With minimal assistance from the police, her family began asking everyone Hannah knew about her whereabouts. Hannah's friend Jennifer took the lead in the family's search efforts and decided to speak to Hannah's boyfriend, Brad, who said he hadn't seen or heard from her and was as clueless as the rest of the family. Jennifer then reached out to other mutual friends, including 20-year-old Danny Ross. She asked him if he had seen Hannah, but he also said no. 2 days passed with absolutely no sign of Hannah and no leads. It was then that the police received a call about an abandoned Geo Prism that had been parked on the side of the road for a few days, just a few miles from Hannah's home. However, at this point, Hannah's missing persons report had not yet been entered into the police system. As a result, the officer who took the call about the abandoned Geo Prism was unaware that a missing girl who owned a Geo Prism had been reported. The officer simply sent someone to put a parking ticket on the vehicle, not realizing it was Hannah Hill's car. The next day, Hannah's boyfriend, Brad, went to the police station to urge them to expedite the search for Hannah. At that moment, the police noticed that he had scratches all over him. When questioned, Brad explained that he and Hannah had argued a few days before her disappearance, and she had scratched him during the argument. He insisted it was nothing serious. Although the police were somewhat suspicious, they lacked any evidence to link him to Hannah's disappearance, and thus could not arrest him. The police then released information about Hannah's disappearance to the media, hoping that someone might read about it and come forward with information. Another lead emerged when several people called the police station to report an abandoned geoprism on the side of the road a few miles away from where Hannah's arm was found. Similar to a previous call, at least 2 of the callers were told to call back the next day if the car was still there, even though they were certain it was Hannah Hill's car. The next morning, on May 26th, a full week after Hannah's disappearance, the police finally dispatched officers to investigate the car. At 7:30 a.m., officers arrived at the scene. The car appeared unremarkable, like a normally parked vehicle, and showed no signs of damage. When the police opened the trunk, they discovered Hannah Hill's body inside. The news indicated that it might be her body, but it was clear to me who else it could be. I broke down and became hysterical, unable to believe it. Hannah was found naked from the waist down, with her jumper and bra pulled up to her neck. She was posed in a sexually suggestive manner, indicating a likely sexual assault. Her body was covered in bruises, cuts, and scratches, particularly on her arms and face, suggesting a violent struggle had taken place. We had a girl who was severely beaten, with bruises on her back and face. If there's sex involved followed by a beating that results in death, it constitutes rape. Local residents were deeply disturbed by how long it took the police to find the body. They repeatedly reported the body of the missing 18-year-old girl, whom everyone had been frantically searching for over a week. Her body had been on the roadside, and despite numerous reports, the police did not check the car, which would have taken only about 10 minutes. There's a possibility that Hannah could have been saved. We don't know if she was dead or alive when initially placed in the trunk of her car. Had the police arrived sooner, she might have been rescued. Immediately after, many officers were assigned to the case because it was clearly a murder, not a natural death. Someone had done this and placed her in the trunk. An autopsy was conducted on Hannah's body, revealing strangulation as the cause of death. Additionally, an unidentified white substance was discovered on her lip, along with a bite mark on one of her arms. Evidence suggested that she had engaged in sexual activity shortly before her demise, though whether it was consensual remains uncertain. However, the circumstances surrounding Hannah's body strongly indicate a sexual assault. She was found partially undressed, with her shirt pulled up and her legs positioned in a manner suggesting lack of respect and dignity. The investigation initially focused on Hannah's boyfriend, 19-year-old Brad O'Born, who had a history of mistreating her, as confirmed by her friends. Furthermore, Brad exhibited scratches at the time of investigation, which raised suspicions. Following the discovery of Hannah's body, Brad was questioned by the police, though the specifics of the interrogation were never disclosed publicly. Despite initial focus on Brad as a suspect, the police eventually dropped their investigation into him, citing reasons unknown to the public. Consequently, the details of the questioning remain undisclosed. However, law enforcement concluded that Brad could not have been responsible, prompting them to explore alternative suspects. The police recovered Hannah's mobile phone and discovered that she had contacted several different friends on the night she went missing, including one particular friend, 20-year-old Denny. Hannah and Denny were perceived to be close by her friends. Although Jennifer mentioned that she herself wasn't very close to Denny, she had only attended a few parties at his house. Denny's place was known as the party house since there were no adults, allowing for anything to happen without repercussions. Denny was seen as young, immature, and carefree, still enjoying life without settling down. He had a reputation as a player and wasn't considered very trustworthy, either as a friend nor as a romantic partner. Hannah was aware of this and cautioned her friends about him, acknowledging that while he seemed nice, he could also be aggressive in pursuing what he wanted. Notably, Denny had encountered trouble with the police before. Just 2 months prior, he had been caught attempting to sell $500 worth of cocaine, and this incident occurred merely 2 days before Hannah's disappearance. On May 26, 1999, Danny admitted guilt to cooking and trafficking, resulting in a 2-year probation. Coincidentally, this was the same day Hannah's body was discovered. Authorities, having ruled out her boyfriend as a suspect, visited Danny Ross at his apartment, not necessarily as a suspect, but to glean any information he might have. Danny, one of the last people Hannah spoke to before her disappearance, had a broken arm in a cast, which he claimed resulted from a recent altercation. During interrogation, he disclosed that Hannah had visited him at 11 p.m. on the night she vanished, a detail previously undisclosed even to his acquaintances or law enforcement. Given the significance of this revelation amid Hannah's missing person inquiry, suspicion naturally arose as to why Danny hadn't divulged this earlier. Consequently, authorities brought Danny Ross in for further questioning at the police station. During the interrogation, Danny disclosed that Hannah was unhappy in her relationship with Brad O'Born. He mentioned they had been discussing her dissatisfaction on the night she vanished. Danny confessed to sharing a kiss with her that night, but he insisted that was the extent of their interaction before Hannah departed his residence after midnight. The fact that Danny spent a significant amount of time with Hannah on the night of her disappearance without informing anyone, not even his close friends, raised considerable suspicion. One might wonder why Danny, aware that Hannah was missing and considering her a friend, never took the initiative to notify the authorities or offer assistance in locating her. The police, sensing something amiss, promptly obtained a search warrant. In the early hours of May 27th, a team of 15 officers descended upon Danny Ross's second-floor apartment. Inside, detectives discovered what appeared to be bloodstains splattered across various surfaces, including the walls, shades, and sheets. Outside, near one of the apartment windows, an officer stumbled upon a garbage bag hidden beneath a bush. Suspecting it might contain evidence, they retrieved the bag and proceeded to inspect its contents. To their shock, they found a pair of blood-stained women's pants, alongside soiled underwear, shoes, and a purse, all unmistakably belonging to Hannah Hill. This discovery unfolded within a mere 24 hours of Hannah's body being recovered, adding a chilling layer to the already perplexing mystery surrounding her disappearance and subsequent demise. Danny Ross found himself at the center of a storm of suspicion when he was arrested for alleged aggravated murder in connection with Hannah's tragic death. From the outset, Danny adamantly maintained his innocence, a stance fervently supported by his family, particularly his father, Alan Ross, who promptly rallied a formidable team of defense lawyers to his son's side. With meticulous precision, these legal experts embarked on a thorough examination of the evidence slated for presentation at trial. Among the pivotal pieces of evidence was Hannah's clothing bag, containing crucial forensic clues, and the discovery of semen in her underwear, conclusively matched to Danny via DNA analysis. Additionally, investigators found an unidentified white residue on Hannah's lip, later determined to correspond with the material of a cast worn by Danny. Moreover, the presence of a bite mark on Hannah's arm appeared eerily consistent with the dental impressions of Danny. Despite the apparent weight of evidence against him, Danny's defense team asserted the existence of potential flaws in the prosecution's case. They argued that authorities prematurely charged Danny, failing to adequately explore alternative leads before targeting him. This rush to judgment, they contended, was indicative of a desire to hastily assign blame, ostensibly to compensate for deficiencies in the initial investigation, notably highlighted by the delayed discovery of Hannah's remains. So, Danny's team contended that they merely caught a glimpse of Jenny, noticed some evidence, and hastily charged him without thoroughly investigating other individuals first. As I mentioned, Danny Robb was accused of aggravated murder, not just murder, due to suspicions of raping Hannah as well. Aggravated murder carries the possibility of a death sentence. I believe Danny is accountable, but whether he acted alone or with assistance remains unknown. Danny's defense primarily argued that the police hastily charged him without adequately exploring other suspects. Initially, Hannah's boyfriend was the primary suspect, but after a few hours of interrogation, they released him without explanation. Danny's defense found this abrupt shift concerning, as there was insufficient evidence linking him to the crime beyond speculation about their troubled relationship, which isn't concrete evidence. Someone might have killed Hannah or moved her body to another place using her car. But there wasn't any evidence like fibers or DNA to connect Jenny to Hannah's car or body. Even Hannah's body didn't have any evidence on it. Now, there's a man with a broken left hand living upstairs. He could have taken Hannah's body down the stairs, put it in her car, driven it 1.5 miles away, and then took off her pants and underwear with poop on them, put them in a bag, and brought it home where he kept it for 8 days. So, in this case, there's no solid forensic evidence. It's mostly circumstantial. Jenny happened to be at his house that night, and they found a bag of her clothes there. But nothing directly links him to Hannah forensically. Now, there are a few different possibilities. One is that Denny might have been framed. There's no forensic evidence linking him to Hannah. The only real connection was the bag of clothes on his property. But maybe someone else put it there after seeing Hannah leave that night, attacked her, and then planted the evidence on Denny. Another way it could have happened is that someone might have helped him, maybe even committed the murder themselves. It's possible that someone else, maybe a member of Denny's group, had the idea. Denny's could have just been a place where they often hung out, perhaps planning something. So, he might not have acted alone. Then there's the chance that Jenny did it. Maybe he really did kill Hannah. Perhaps he was just very careful about it, leaving no evidence behind. But it's really tough to kill someone and not leave any fibers, DNA, or hair anywhere near the body or in the car used. So, maybe he was just incredibly fortunate, or extremely cautious. Danny Ross's trial started on October 17, 2000. His best friend, Jennifer Edwards, was asked to speak in court. She said Danny lied to her many times during the week when Hannah was missing. He told her he didn't see Hannah that night, but we know he did. Jennifer felt he showed no remorse or sorrow. This helped the prosecution's case. Danny later admitted Hannah had been to his house, so why did he keep denying it to his friends for many days? The police who searched Jennifer's home testified that they heard a noise like something hitting the ground as they went up to Danny's apartment. They didn't check what made the noise, but looking back, it might have been Danny throwing a bag of clothes out of his window. As previously mentioned, the bag was discovered adjacent to his window, aligning with the narrative presented by Danny's defense. They contended that it defied logic for Danny Ross to retain a bag containing Hannah's incriminating garments in his residence for an entire week, especially considering the ongoing police investigation. The defense posited the possibility of the evidence being planted, suggesting that the actual perpetrator of the crime may have surreptitiously deposited it there, capitalizing on the knowledge that Hannah had frequented Danny's abode. If indeed the bag was tampered with by an external party, it elucidates the absence of any forensic ties linking Danny to either the victim's body or a vehicle. Moreover, it raises questions about the motives behind such a planting. Could it be that law enforcement, confronted with their delayed discovery of Hannah's remains, sought to expedite closure by pinning the crime on someone, regardless of veracity? This conjecture posits a scenario wherein the police, eager to redeem themselves in the public eye, targeted Danny as a convenient scapegoat, orchestrating the discovery of the incriminating bag on his property to expedite his arrest. In essence, Danny's defense alleged a deliberate framing orchestrated by the authorities to swiftly resolve the case and salvage their reputation, implicating Danny in the process. The state contends that Hannah's tragic demise was not incidental. Dennis, in his defense, endeavors to assert that Hannah may have engaged in consensual sexual activity prior to her untimely death, implying it was a factor in her murder. While forensic evidence confirms her sexual activity before her demise, the crucial aspect of whether it was consensual remains elusive, as Hannah, the sole witness, is no longer with us, having fallen victim to a heinous crime. The circumstances surrounding her murder, coupled with the revelation of her recent sexual encounter, strongly suggest a correlation between the two events. Furthermore, the state highlights the extent of violence inflicted upon Hannah's body, bruises, cuts, and scratches, as indicative of a non-consensual encounter. Dennis's defense contends that any sexual interaction between them was consensual, positing that Hannah left his residence unharmed prior to her demise. Yet, the absence of seminal fluid within Hannah's body, limited to her underwear, and the autopsy findings indicating no physical trauma to her genital area, raised doubts about the veracity of this claim. While it's true that consensual sex doesn't always result in physical harm, it's not a definitive indicator either way. Thus, the solidity of this evidence remains subject to scrutiny. As I mentioned earlier, the only person who could definitively confirm whether it was consensual or not was killed and placed in the trunk of her own car, naked and beaten. I believe this speaks volumes. Remember how Hannah had that white substance on her lip, which was speculated to be from Denny's arm cast. While it wasn't officially confirmed, Denny's defense brought in a chemist who argued that the fibers on Hannah's lip might not have come from Denny's cast. Such material is commonly found in various products, including car trunk liners. So, the jury had several choices. They could find Denny guilty of both rape and murder, potentially leading to the death penalty, or just murder, which would still result in a lengthy sentence but no death penalty. Initially, the jury was divided, especially regarding the significant evidence of Hannah's clothing bag. Many believed Denny had the bag and threw it out of the window when he saw the police, but others couldn't comprehend why he'd keep incriminating evidence around. The bag wasn't tied, it was merely crumpled at the top and dropped. If it was dropped from a second-story window without being tied, how did it remain closed? Some jurors speculated that Denny might have been framed, possibly by a police officer or the real murderer. They entertained the idea that Denny Ross could have been set up. At that moment, the jury reached a decision that they didn't have enough proof to firmly say Danny Ross hadn't raped on that night. This meant they couldn't consider the serious charge of aggravated murder and the death penalty anymore. Some jurors didn't believe he was guilty of anything, while others suspected he might have been framed. However, many believed he was guilty of at least the murder part. As they continued deliberating, someone interrupted, instructing them to halt discussions and take a break. It turned out one juror had seen news about the Hannah Hill case, which is a big no-no during a trial. Jurors are supposed to base their decisions solely on what's presented in court. This news influenced the biased juror's opinion. He thought if Brad passed the lie detector test, Danny must be guilty. This external information tainted his judgment, which is against the rules. This revelation meant a fair trial wasn't possible anymore, and the whole process would need to start over. But because they'd already ruled Danny not guilty of rape, retrying him would violate double jeopardy, a legal principle that protects against being tried for the same crime twice. Since they couldn't retry Danny for aggravated murder without reopening the rape charge, he was set free. So, he wasn't declared definitively guilty or innocent of Hannah Hill's murder. He simply walked free due to legal constraints. Following his probation, which was a form of supervision because of potential danger, Danny Ross received a sentence in 2004, 4 years after his trial. The sentence was for 25 years in prison due to his assault on a woman in Akron. This incident added substantial evidence against him in the Hannah Hill case. Subsequently, in September 2012, after a lengthy 13-year wait since Hannah's tragic murder, an exception was made, leading to a retrial for the murder of Hannah Hill. The outcome of this retrial was the conviction of Danny Ross on charges of murder, assault, tampering with evidence, and abuse of a corpse. As a result, he was handed a life sentence, with the possibility of parole in 19 years when he reaches the age of 67. This resolution brings closure to a case that spanned over a decade, finally offering some semblance of justice for Hannah Hill and her loved ones. I truly want to understand your thoughts. Please share them in the comments. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more from me. I'll be posting videos more frequently from now on. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.